Hello my friends, and let's go straight to the front lines. Let's zoom into the Bakhmut, the hottest spot for now, and enemy has the advantage inside the city, simply because they took more ground than Ukrainian forces are able to withstand for the current conditions. Understand me right, we have lots of the forces near to the Bakhmut. According to the Wagners information, we collected around 80,000 soldiers around this area, but we used just few of them because it doesn't matter if you send even 100,000 soldiers in this small area, still they will not have advantage over the enemy side. Yes, they may stop the attack of the enemy, but at the same time will have dramatic losses. So here we need to have some sort of the compromise between losses and also holding the enemy in Bakhmut. But still, the Ukrainian side keeps the potential for the counterattack, as I say to you before, on the north and on the south, but not in the Bakhmut city. Now, according to some of the resources, Russia was able to accumulate around 50,000 soldiers, Wagners, and also the regular Russian army forces. And if we assume that Ukraine has around 80,000 soldiers, it is still not enough for the successful counterattack to break the front line in favor of the Ukrainian army, unfortunately. So we should have at least 150,000 soldiers out there, plus equipment, artillery, and many other stuff that we are still in lack of. So for today, Russia was able to get into the city center, as I mentioned you yesterday, so we have the map update already, and just gonna show you the timeline. So it was yesterday and it is today, and yes, it's kind of the bad, but also it's bad for the offensive forces, for the Wagner soldiers, because they have tremendous losses inside the Bakhmut city. Ukrainian forces resist, but a little bit change the position towards the western side of the city around here. Still, there are some buildings in the city center that could be used by Ukrainians to resist, and that is what they are doing right now. On the north side, Russia claimed that they've took this factory under their control. I don't see the movement on this map today, but I would agree with the factory, and Ukraine still keeps the administrative building under their control. The factory is not that big as in Azovstal in Mariupol, but still the fighting looks very similar. And if we zoom out, you can see some disperse in the Russian vectors, and now they put them more closer to the front line. Probably they want to assault on the north over here to encircle the Chasiv Yar altogether with this area, but I think it's an impossible task for them. As you can see, they may push us little by little and even can take the city or partially take the city, but for the encirclement, no, they are out of the resources. And we have some sort of the good news out there in Bilohorivka. It's been confirmed that Ukraine pushed a little over here as compared to what it was before. If we go on a timeline, it was like that. Now it's been confirmed that we pushed forward and Russia is controlling, I would say, the front line very close to that small river over here. As for the Bilohorivka, well, there was the heavy fighting before and Russia lost lots of the forces trying to cross the river of Siversky Donets. Finally, they've took this small village, but Ukraine was able to gain control over it, and we pushed Russians away further to the Lysychansk and Novodrushevsk. And Bilohorivka might be used by Ukrainian forces as the place to start the counterattack to free or liberate Severodonetsk and Lysychansk. And still, mainly, we are out of clue where the counterattack might start for the spring and summer campaign. I also think that it might start over here in Luhansk region, because it's very similar to what we see on the south part of Ukraine, because there are just not a lot of the villages, not a lot of the towns. Basically, it's the free land, flat ground, many fields, and it could be one of the best places to break through the Russian defense lines. But unfortunately, this place is very close to the Russian border, and it has lots of the connections with the Russian control territory, with the Russia itself, let's say. Plus, Russia may send some extra forces from Bakhmut direction, for example, or from Donbass, from Avdiivka, to close the way for Ukrainian counterattack to enter this territory of the self-proclaimed republics. And now what Russians are doing, they're trying to get some of the ground towards Liman city, or Liman town is fair to say, because it's not huge. So it was yesterday and it is today. It's been confirmed that they've took this field under their control near to the Torsk village that is taken by Ukrainian side. Actually, Russians report, I remember 1 month ago, that they've already took Torsk, but no, it's under Ukraine. As for Avdiivka, the other hot spot on the front lines, Russia has just a slight movement over here compared to yesterday. Just a couple of 100 meters across this road. It will not change the picture for Avdiivka itself, and we continue to resist over here. And as for Avdiivka, I don't see any scenario how Russia might encircle this territory, because they are not moving from the north and mostly concentrating their forces on the south, but still unable to break through the Ukrainian defense. And we created the layers of defense. So first one here, the second one here, here, and yes, they were able to break through many, but still they're unable to move forward very fast. And here is their movement since the beginning of the war. This hub and also this one, it's their movement for 1 year. And let's check the distance over here, how many kilometers they were able to occupy. A little bit more than 7 kilometers. That's around 5 miles. So to occupy all of the Ukraine, they need 200 years if they will keep this pace. So I wouldn't say that they're really attacking over here. They are scrolling with severe losses. And for Ukraine, this situation is awesome because we cause our enemy severe losses. Yes, we are losing the ground, which is not good, but we give it as exchange for the tremendous losses on the enemy side, and also they cannot use their men on the other parts of the front lines. So we consolidate them in particular areas around the small towns like Avdiivka and Bakhmut. And you probably remember Vuhledar, where Russia lost more than 130 armored vehicles and tanks. Well, the commander who performed that failed mission from the Russian side was dismissed from his position, but just temporary. Officially, he's on vacation. Yeah, Russia has this usual nonsense, but what I might say that they're very close actually to Vuhledar, and maybe they might take it under their control if new commander will do everything according to the book, but I honestly have doubts about it. Well, according to our intelligence services report, Russia reinforced the group near to Vuhledar, so they may try one more attack. And honestly, if you really zoom out way, you understand the nonsense that Russia is fighting for, because Putin's main goal was to take control all over the Ukraine. That is why they assaulted on Kiev and tried to reach it from many of the directions unsuccessfully. That's why they also announced their sovereign right over the Kherson and Zaporizhia Oblast. But you see how big the Ukraine really is, and they were really lucky to take the control over the south part that fast. And it was the betrayed from the Ukrainian command as well, and the general who was responsible for the security of the south part somehow lost his life, and it was said that it was the suicide. At least we got this message in the Ukrainian media, but I think it was well organized betrayed, because just 1 week before Russia attacked, those routes from Crimea were demined. And speaking about Mariupol, the fortress of Azov soldiers and Azovstal, some of the defense lines were buried down and destroyed by the strange group of the people that got the order from the local mayor. The mayor of the city simply said that the war is impossible and it's time to get rid of the defense lines. Strangely, I don't see the huge investigation on those actions, but nevertheless, we have the support from our Western countries, and I'm sure they're gonna dig down and find the truth. We have what we have right now, and our army fights as never before, and for sure, in the future, we'll see the counterattack. So, my friends, in the comment sections, you may tell me where it's going to happen. I see just two or maybe 2.5 directions. The preferable one is on Melitopol and directly to Crimea border. The other one is on the north part of the Luhansk area over here, and other one might be in Kherson. But for that we need to land on the other shore of the river, which is kind of the tricky one. And I do not expect the huge counterattack on the eastern side of Ukraine towards Donbass, because Russia also was able to build the huge defense lines over there. But now Russia is also building the lines in Crimea itself and also near to Melitopol. So they do expect that the Ukraine will start the counterattack. And it's gonna happen 100%. It's not like Russian advertisement for the winter campaign. Then they say that they will start their massive attack on Ukraine once again, and there were some rumors that they will go to Kiev again from the Belarus territory. No, here even Lloyd Austin, the chief of Pentagon, says that Ukraine has very good chances for the successful counteroffensive. So there's no question whether this counteroffensive will start or not. It will, and also has the chances to be successful. So what does the successful counterattack means? It's not just taking the ground. The ground is not our priority. The main thing is to break through the Russian defense lines as the avalanche, causing it to collapse. And for this main strike, we're gonna need lots of the tanks. That is why we obtained the majority of the tanks already, Leopard 2 and Challenger 2 tanks. And right after this main strike, we'll have light armored vehicles that will encircle the Russian positions and cause them to surrender or just eliminate them. We need to cause the Russian side losses, and it should be very fast counterattack. It's not going to be the same as we see right now. Then Russia pushes the Ukrainian side over and over again with severe losses. We cannot afford to lose many men. First of all, because we are a totally different country and we respect human lives. And the other thing, that we don't have that resource as Russia if we speak about the population. And here Lloyd Austin says openly that Russian forces are concentrated in Donbass, so they're very busy over there and mostly exhausted. And Ukraine now simply keeps the resources for the future counterattack. He says that currently Ukraine already has a significant advantage over the Russian army, but we are not using our resources fully. But the successful counteroffensive is only possible if all conditions are met, and the weather is one of that condition. It should be good and dry. Russia already messed up with the weather. Then they started the major assault on Ukraine on 24th of February because their forces were locked on the roads. It's better not to use the wet season if you plan this massive scale invasion, because your forces might just bog down. And those were easy targets for our artillery and aviation. And we learned on our enemy's mistakes, so we would attack, I think, just right now, but it's better to wait for the better circumstances or better weather. One more drone crashed near to Moscow this time. Yes, it's very close. And you see what's written on a wing. It's Slava Ukraini. And about the drone itself, I don't think it's the serial production or something. It's the amateur build based on the quality of those materials. Maybe it's the light RC controlled airplane, not more than that. Kind of the interesting news about the TikTok and the ammunition makers. Yes, they might be connected. The ammunition makers have the factories, and they're usually based in the cities or in the towns with limited electricity facilities. And apparently, somehow, TikTok created the hub services very close to those factories, and now then the factories wants to increase the production of the shells and other ammunition to supply them to Ukraine. They are limited with it, because the energy is limited for the particular place, and you cannot just increase the power and supply more electricity from the power plants to that particular facility. It's not working like that. So you need to have alternate power plant to supply this factory, or I don't know, switch off the TikTok. And they speak not just about one TikTok hub, there are many around the factory. Is it coincidence? Who knows? But now the factory is unable to produce more shells to to Ukraine and also to Norway. But they'll find the way out for sure, it just takes the time. British intelligence says about the failed Russian attempts to encircle Avdiivka, and the 10th Russian tank regiment lost most part of their tanks over there. And we don't have the images as in Vuhledar, but I think it was similar failed operation over there. And Russia used the 3rd Army Corps to compensate the losses, but the 3rd Army is made out of the mobilized soldiers who were not long time ago civilians, and they have the low discipline and are basically limited in combat effectiveness. That is why Ukraine was able to move them out to the borders with the self-proclaimed DPR. However, as you saw from our map review, Russia gained some sort of the fields and other small villages under their control, which is not that great for the 2nd Army in the world. And while I'm recording this video, the shooting was reported in Chechnya, the occupied Russian territory, and honestly, the independent Inchkeria. So someone filmed on the phone some of the shooting, but I cannot show you it on YouTube, my friends. Unfortunately, I will post it on my Telegram channel, and to join my Telegram channel, please go to the video description just below where you can find the link to it. Well, the more they get unstable, the better it is for Ukraine. Sad news, the Ukrainian pilot and commander died today. I think he was flying MiG-29, as we see from this picture. His name was Denis Kerluk, and we don't have any details about what happened to him particularly. We only know that he died performing the military mission. He was a very experienced pilot and got dozens of real fighting flights since the beginning of this war. Rest in peace, hero. Portugal sent the Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine, and not just Leopard 2 tanks, but the A6 modification, which is one of the best out there. Well, the best one is A7, but mainly Ukrainian side got A4 modification. And before, Russians said that we'll never have even A5 modification, but Germany and Portugal supported us with A6. And now it's the open information that Russia started to take the T-55 and T-54 tanks from the long-term storage. And those are made in 1950s, quite old, and the only way how Russia might use those old tanks is as artillery systems. I think it's the only possible way, or they may put the tank stationary near to checkpoint to reinforce the infantry. Other than that, they will not be useful and will be simply destroyed by everything in a modern day war. And the purpose of the tank is not being artillery or not being stationary. Okay, what is that? Well, clearly it is a Photoshop. This tank is not real, even though it's the Challenger 2. There are no shadows over here, the lights are yeah, it's the Photoshop 100%. And actually it's very funny. So you may find this armor on the Russian tanks, sometimes contact 1, sometimes contact 5, depends on modification. But on the NATO tanks it's different. It's usually built into the armor of the tank, and it's not that ugly. And on many of the tanks it doesn't even exist because it doesn't work against the modern day shells. Well, counting that Russia uses the modern-day shells or the weaponry in their army just occasionally, maybe it's the good tuning for the Challenger 2 or Leopard 2 tanks. But it looks really ugly. What I like here, by the way, is the defense of this forward part, because it's kind of the weak spot of the Challenger 2. But there is the factory tuning with extra armor plate on the forward part, and it works very fine with that tuning, but it doesn't look that ugly. I think the author just took 2 of the rubber mud guards from the track and put them over here. If we speak about the design, the Challenger 2 is one of my favorites, and someone just ruined it. And here we have the trenches in the Bakhmut, so no counterattack is possible in those conditions, obviously. And the weather is far to be warm over there. We need to wait for the sunny time. And the Ukrainian command reported today that Russia is not that offensive compared to the recent days in Bakhmut. And partially it's confirmed by the statistics of the losses. Today they lost much less compared to before. But still, soldiers on the place say that it's very hard there in the Bakhmut. And for me over here, it's hard to judge because I'm out of the real information of what is happening out there. I mean, the tactical one that our generals have. So probably, and I hope it's like that Russia is really exhausted in Bakhmut. Wagners used most of their forces and now perform less attacks on the city. And it's very hard for our soldiers, but still there should be the place for the humor, otherwise you just can go mad. That's why our soldiers are filming some sort of the TikToks from their positions. For example, this one with the beaver. You see how our guy just grabbed the beaver on the tail. And you may say that it's not a good behavior with that animal, but the animal just occupied the trench that our soldiers digged for themselves, not for this beaver. So what will happen after the soldier releases the beaver? The beaver just goes into what he thinks is his home. And saying so, we also understand that war not just touches us humans. Not only we lost our lives, but also many animals and lots of the trees and other stuff. Ukraine is not a deserted place. We have a wonderful nature. We have lots of the forests, trees and animals that were devastated because of the Russian aggression. Yeah, I simply cannot finish on a positive note. And now, my friends, just press the like to this video, and also if you want to support my job, there are some of the links in the video description below. And please, you may also join the Patreon or the sponsorship on my channel, where you can get the access for my podcasts and regular streams on my private Telegram channel. My friends, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.